From May 4th to the 10th, New York hosted the 11th Penn World Voices Festival. It concentrated on African literary cultures, bringing in a litany of writers, artists, academics, and activists from Senegal, Ivory Coast, Nigeria, Kenya, Congo-Brazzaville, Cameroon, South Africa, and beyond. And among the subjects discussed were issues on the role of the African diaspora, the cultural arena in publishing variations in important literary genres in different countries, and gender issues in Africa. To help us break it down, we have in our studios Zanele Muholi, who was one of the panelists from South Africa. She's also the founder of Inkanyiso, which means a mixture or mixing pot, she'll explain, and also co-founder of the Forum for the Empowerment of Women, which is basically defined as the few, just few. Okay, Zanele, welcome to Sahara TV.
Thank you so much, Fungai.
Okay, so before we go into this interview, we're just going to play a short clip of part of your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a special star that shines every evening in your eyes. Special star that shines. It's gonna hit a lullaby. Special, I'm going to put Vaseline. Good. I'm Zanele Muholi, reporting live from South Africa. I used to be a hairstylist.
Really?
Yeah, we had a life before we came out. Somebody asked me how influential am I when it comes to these portraits. And I said to people, I just want people to look good. Oh. I really, really want people to be fresh. We're going to Limpopo Pride.
I'm coming when I leave the address.
Okay, so that was a clip of your film. We're going to talk about that. But first of all, let's talk about Penn. Was this the first of the festivals that you've attended, and how was your experience in this one?
I've attended quite a number of conferences before, and Penn was one of the best experiences, I must say.
Right.
Having had an opportunity to network with people who are writers and also creative thinkers, who made sure that we read and get to understand what is happening in different parts of the world, let alone Africa only, but also in different spaces like America here. So it was my first time at Penn, and I've learned a lot, and having an opportunity to mix with the most influential
So I know
people.
you are also one of the panelists together with the greatest writer, Ngugi wa Thiong'o, who was also on opening night. And the title was "The Future Is Now," where you presented your best and worst scenarios, where the world may be in 2050. What was this about in the discussion?
We were given an opportunity to speak about how do we foresee or imagine 2050. Obviously, we had a period in our lives where there are different challenges that are faced by human beings and citizens in African countries. So my focus is on black, lesbian, gays, bisexual, and transgender people in South Africa specifically. So the 2050 that I wanted to see is a space in which people are free to express their gender, a space where people are free to express their sexuality without fear of being persecuted. So I was looking at a situation currently where a number of people or friends and people that are part of the LGBT community in South Africa who are going through brutal murder simply because of who they are, especially black lesbians in different spaces in the country. A lot of people go through curative rapes simply because of who they are. So I just wanted to share my thoughts on why the 2050 should be a space where there are no more killings, where there are no more violations, where people live according to the constitution that we have in South Africa. That was my bit. Other writers, they had to share their own thoughts.
Okay, so now you have a self-proclamation about your mission, and I'll quote you say, "This is to rewrite a black, queer, and trans visual history of South Africa for the world to know of our resistance and existence at the height of hate crime in South Africa and beyond." Now, this statement comes also at the time when South Africa was experiencing xenophobia, which is equally a hate crime too. So what did you mean anyway? I know you've explained in things.
Speaking as a visual activist, looking, especially now you're talking about xenophobia that are happening in South Africa, like how South Africa experienced apartheid before. It basically says that as photographers and people who have tools to produce, like cameras, like recorders and everything that is there to be, it's very important that we document, you know, that particular or those movements or things that are happening that are painful, where people lose their lives, and also where people, you know, are displaced in space.
Right.
And we can't shy away and ignore the fact that people are being violated in spaces that they're occupying without doing anything. So I think it's a way in which we share that current situation to inform the future, because as a lot of South Africans and Africans who are in South Africa continue to face such atrocities, we can't shy away from that. We can't ignore the fact that people's rights are being, you know, violated in that way. It's very important that we document that as a matter of fact, and also to make sure that forms part of our timelines as we grow up as human beings. And again, it goes back to that vision for 2050, that the homophobic hate crimes, xenophobic hate crimes, transphobic hate crimes are unnecessary. There is no ways that people could simply be moved from their spaces or be expelled from spaces where they pay taxes. Even if, say, they don't,
right,
there is no need for hate amongst Africans or amongst human beings that lives in any spaces.
So during this festival, you were also a panelist alongside Kenyan Kane Prize winner, Binyavanga Wainaina, who's also openly gay. He just came out a few years ago. So the topic was Under Queer Futures. And this is where you discuss the African gay rights movements and how do artists and activists roar in the struggle for human rights? Like where does it fall now?
The focus obviously is on writing, and also how do we write and how do we rewrite a history that was somehow distorted. And it says that lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans people are just like any other person. And we can't always expect people to write our, you know, our narratives. And like Binyavanga, yes, he came out, but he's a thinking being, and he's writing with his own thoughts and also analyzing different things that are happening in his own country. Same thing applies with me in South Africa. I'm just using visual tools to articulate my realities on a daily basis. So the whole point of having the queer future specifically is to look at the current generation and how the generation of ours informed by the past, and how that past is perceived to be history, but the very same history. Who writes history? Who writes Africa? And how much or how many of us get an opportunity to write this history in ways that we live our lives, you know?
Okay.
So we're changing, you know, the literature, the context as this generation. And it says that our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren get to, you know, consume what was produced by people that they live with in their homes, because we can't distance the lives of us in space, you know.
Okay, so now just briefly about the short clip that we watched. This is obviously your baby. You wrote it, you shot it, you acted in it. What was this about?
Oh, the short clip that you saw, there was a collaboration actually with Human Rights Watch.
Okay.
And a New York office, because you have Human Rights Watch offices in different places. It's like collaborating with Sahara TV.
Right, right.
So it was a way in which I also emphasized the need for collaborations between the media, you know, outlets, and also the community members who are working in their own spaces. And I shared how I work with my collective, which is Nganye, so where I train and continue to train a lot of youngsters who are passionate about media. It's one thing to depend on mainstream media, but it's something else to write your own voices and your narratives according to your understanding. Right. To avoid, again, sensationalism, to avoid being misrepresented. So that documentary was a way in which I shared what we are doing with an organization that is already developed, which is from this part of the world. And also we continue to collaborate with different organizations in South Africa and beyond South Africa.
Okay, so at this point it's proper for me to say congratulations because you've been shortlisted for the 2015 Deutsche Norse Photography Prize for the publication of your publication, Faces and Phrases.
It's Faces and Phases, which
Faces and
Phases, which is a
Okay.
project that I started in 2006 until 2014. That's one of my 4 publications, and then that is currently, some of the images are currently on show at Brooklyn Museum right now until November 1. So we continue to document.
I see that the New York Times also recently wrote an article about your work they covered at the Brooklyn Museum. So now, if people need to see your work, where can they go? Besides the Brooklyn Museum, of course.
Most of our life stories we blog almost daily, and then we share with people different activities that are taking place in South Africa or in different South African townships, even if I'm not there, but then my colleagues are also continuing to work, like how you guys are working here.
Right.
It's inkanyiso.org, INKANYISO.org, inkanyiso.org. We are there almost daily, if not daily, weekly, but we continue to do it, for people to read and also learn to write their own stories without fear of grammatical errors, etc., etc.
Thank you very much for joining us for a short spell, but it was well worth it. This is obviously Zanele Muholi of South Africa. She's a visual activist who deals in photography and tells her story just the way it's supposed to be told. I'm Fungai Maboreke. Stick around for more programming.